And that led to establishing empowered women in trades. So I pivoted out of that industry because it just really didn't align with my values, because if I was lying down, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Heal some of the anger that I had inside me in a productive way. And then it took off and turned into a national company. Now that I'm in the skilled trades industry, I don't have to decide if I eat or my kids eat tonight. And that's the moment I won my gold medal. Because when I was able to answer that question.
I'm Garret Wong, and this is the Investing to Win podcast. How do you define success, and what does winning look like for you? Hacia, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, I am. So Hacia comes from abroad, but now she's in the US. But why don't you give the audience just a little bit of your background, and then I'll dig in, get a little bit more granular with my questions.
Yeah. So originally from Australia, and I come from a fifth generation plumbing family. But after 5 generations, I'm the first female of my family to ever get involved in the trade space. I'm very, very passionate about the skilled trade space, particularly plumbing. I think plumbers save more lives than doctors, because when we've got clean water, fresh air, safe gas lines, all of the amazing things that plumbers do, we have thriving communities. So very, very proud to be from a plumbing family and a deep love for the plumbing trade. And then we'll probably touch base on it in this interview. I used to be a very high-level dressage rider, and I had a near-fatal accident. So my horse reared up, fell on top of me, all of her 600 kilos, which is, I think, you're about 1,300 pounds. I'm learning to convert things from kilos to pounds now.
We're in Canada here, so I know kilos.
Now that I'm relocating to the US, which is really, really sad, because my weight in kilos is 2 digits, but in pounds, it's 3 digits. So I'm mortified that my weight is now 3 digits.
No, that's awesome. No, I know that. So we've known each other a while, and I've wanted to get you onto the podcast, but wanted to wait until you were settled. Let's dig back. I mean, I love origin stories, and tell me what it was like growing, like fifth generation plumber. I mean, I can't even count that high. I mean, who started the business?
So it was my great grandpa who came over from England as a young qualified plumber on the ship called the Samarang. And so he came to Australia, and originally for the gold rush back then, all the way in early 1800s. So he came back, a gold rush. But at that time, Melbourne in Australia was called Smellborn. We had very, very bad sanitary. So he kind of thought, there's an opportunity here. I guess he was always entrepreneurial and kind of leaned into setting up his plumbing company in Melbourne, Australia. So from there, the company has grown over time. And when sterilisation started to become a thing, my family moved into starting to design sterilisation machines. And it's really fantastic to see. We've actually got some of the original machines that we made, which were obviously very manual, to the ones that my family company now makes today, which has a lot more technology in it, a lot more of the computers are driving it, then all of those kind of different things. So yeah, over I think that time, as the plumbing industry's changed, the skill sets changed. We went from mechanical service plumbers to now the family company manufactures and services medical infection control equipment.
Wow. So when did you decide, or did you, like, what were your aspirations growing up as a little girl?
So very much, my dad sailed for Australia. He actually sailed in the America's Cup, and I always remember putting on his green and gold jacket when I was a little girl and really wanting to have my own green and gold jacket. But I wasn't a fantastic sailor, but I was a very good horse rider. So I wanted to do that in equestrian. So my focus in life was always that dream of becoming a dressage rider for my country. And I was getting very close when the horse riding accident happened. So for me, my career was always a little bit secondary. I kind of was really good with numbers. I kind of bounced around everywhere. So I actually started off wanting to be a corporate lawyer. Barrister in Australia, we've got barristers. So I wanted to be a corporate law barrister. So I started doing my law degree, and it's ironic what I'm doing now. So this was back in like 2007. I was working in Owen Dixon, well, had an internship in Owen Dixon Chambers, and it was really confronting being a young woman in the law industry to see how female barristers were being treated by other barristers, how they'll be treated by judges, and everything like that. So young kind of 18-year-old me was like, do I really want to come to work and fight this battle every single day of being treated so poorly and not being able to do the right thing by my client at times because of the biases that would be held against me because of my gender? So I kind of thought, like, no, that's not what I wanted to do. I was modeling at the time, so I pivoted into fashion design and I did my qualifications in fashion design. And that was great. I was riding my horses, I was loving it in the fashion industry. But again, I kind of thought, this is great when I'm in my early 20s, when I'm in my 30s, when I'm in my 40s. Is this an industry that I want to be in forever? So then I pivoted into financial advising. I was very good with numbers, very good with money, all of those things. And I really, really enjoyed that as well. Unfortunately, that industry back then in Australia wasn't the most ethical industry, and we actually had a massive royal commission into the industry. So it was a little bit of the Wild West. Financial institutions were producing their own products. They were forcing their kind of financial advisors to only advise on the products that the company was producing themselves. So it wasn't really overly ethical, to the point one of the most shocking things that came out of the Royal Commission is people were charging, well, financial advisors were charging retirement accounts for people that had already passed. So they were giving advice
Oh my
to people
goodness.
that were no longer alive.
Wow. Where there's a will, there's a way. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like I just
So I pivoted out of that industry because it just really didn't align with my values, with my ethics. I was getting really anxious, really stressed. I felt caught between doing what the right thing by my client was and then my KPIs and my quotas and what my managers were wanting me to do. And I was being like performance managed because I was putting my clients in products that were the right for them, but weren't products that the company I was working for was producing. But I love numbers. So then I went back to uni and I finished off my accounting qualifications and became a qualified accountant, started working for the family company as well, which was great, and understanding, yeah, the world of manufacturing, the nuances of everything when you're manufacturing is all around numbers as well. So it was great to transfer the accounting degree to then understanding kind of project management, manufacturing, all of those kind of things. And again, the horses were the main thing. So work was just something I came to do to pay for my extremely expensive horses at the time. At the time. But that's where I started to really fall in love with the trade that I love the most, which is welding. Because my father, when I came back to the family company, he said, you've got all of your business acumen, you understand it from the books and from a P&L side of point of view, but I really want you to go on the factory floor and understand it from the boots on the ground. And that was the best thing ever. And that I just loved it. It was a very interesting challenge because the first time I put my steel cap boots on, my high vis, and I walked into that factory floor, I went from a very, very confident woman to like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? I can't weld because I'm a woman. I can't strip wires because I'm a woman. And I had an amazing tradesman who's actually sadly passed away call me out on it. And he said, the welder doesn't know if you're a girl or a guy. The pliers don't know if you're a girl or a guy. You're the one that's telling yourself you can't do this because of your gender. And that was just such a wake-up call for me about the narrative wherever it comes from, and yes, there is people out there that reinforce this narrative. There is an undertone in society that makes us think this narrative. But what Johnny really made me realize, I have control of in here. I have control of my mind. I have control of how I think and talk to myself. And regardless of the noise outside, I could call myself on the fact I was telling myself I couldn't do something because of my gender. And that led to establishing empowered women in trades.
Wow, so much to unpack there. So tell me the timeline of when you were riding, when the accident was, in amongst all of these different transitions.
Yeah, so my accident happened in July 2017. So that was just when I'd come back to working at the family company, and I was actually on the factory floor at the time when the accident happened. And I think that was, in a way, really powerful because when the accident happened, I got to spend 6 months in hospital. So I was completely non weight bearing for 3 months. Doctors thought I would never walk again in any meaningful way. 6 months in hospital, and I've had 34 surgeries since the accident. So it's still a work in progress. But the really interesting thing that the universe does for you. I was on the factory floor. I was going over all of those realizations of what I was saying to myself, also experiencing how society was treating me. Because when I'd go get lunch outside my family factory and I was in my workwear, I would get comments like, look at that high vis candy, yum, yum. Is it Halloween? Why are you dressed up as a tradesperson? Is it laundry day? Why are you wearing your boyfriend's clothes? All of these comments when I'd go get coffee, and I'd come back to the factory around supportive tradesmen who, like, don't worry about it, they're just, feeling insecure about themselves, they're idiots. And it was this really interesting world of being surrounded by supportive tradesmen but also experiencing very unsupportive behavior, and then my own narrative and trying to find a sense of belonging in myself. So when the accident happened and all of a sudden you're literally trapped in a hospital bed, your body becomes a coffin for you. I couldn't move. Like, if I wanted to move out of my hospital bed, a whole medical team would have to come, checklists would be run, they would transfer me onto this special bed, they would strap me down like cargo, they'd push me through the halls of the hospital to just get outside so I could have a coffee and a pastry in the sunshine and feel like a normal person for half an hour. And then I'd come back in, the whole process would happen in reverse and everything like that. So when you're living like that, all you have is your thoughts. You don't have much distraction. You can't go for a run or lunch with a friend or working, or all of these things that distract us from those really deep, confronting thoughts. So I spent a lot of time unpacking what was happening in my mind around that experience that I had when I was working in the family factory floor. And then I'm in a female dominated industry. So I started asking all the females that came to give me medication, change my wound dressing. Did you ever think about going into trades? And the really interesting thing is they're like, well, I never really thought about it. I don't even know what that would look like. Like, what would being a plumber or a welder or an electrician be like? Yes, we know and we're aware of those things because we're using every single day stuff that's created and maintained by tradespeople. But pretty much every woman I spoke to was like, I wouldn't even know where to start looking into that career pathway. Um, and then the secondary thing is like, well, do women really belong in that career pathway? Is it a career for women? So I realized I wasn't alone in the way I was thinking about it. But the interesting thing is, those women had no access to the trades. They didn't understand what an apprenticeship was, they didn't understand what being a plumber or a welder was, where I grew up with a deep understanding of these. So that's where I started to think, okay, how can I remove the first barrier, which is lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, and give them the knowledge that I had. And I started talking to a lot of the women that would come and engage with me. And once they had a good understanding of it, they're like, actually, that sounds like it could be really fun. And you start to see this mindset change in the females that I was engaging with. So I thought that was a very interesting thing, and realized one of the biggest barriers of getting women into the industry is a complete lack of knowledge and understanding of what it looks like, sounds like, feels like to be a tradesperson. And then the second big barrier is, well, that's not an industry we belong in. It's for the guys.
I'm shaking my head here because you had said 2017. Um, I mean, when did you? So the accident was 2017, which isn't that long ago,
Mhm.
and yet the birth of empowered women's in trades was less than a decade ago. And I guess as a male, I mean, I see society, right? I think it's awful. I think women can do anything that a man can and more in some cases, right? My company actually has 20 plus employees, and more than half are women for various reasons. But when you talk about trades, absolutely, there's definitely I don't know, maybe it comes from the 1940s or like it's hard to say. Where do you see, like, how has it grown, this movement?
The biggest growth, I think, f- y- from my point of view and how we've done it, if we've changed the entry experience to trades to create it a more feminine experience. So when I first came into the factory floor, I was the only woman there. It was isolating, it was scary. As much as I was surrounded by familiar faces of all of the guys that I knew and I've grown up with, at the end of the day, I was the only woman there. So, as much as I was in a familiar environment, it still had an element of isolating. Also, I had the privilege of experiencing a range of different trades: sheet metal welding, fitter and turner, electrical, etc., where I could find the trade that I really, really enjoyed, which was boiler making, like welding, boiler making, heavy gauge welding. Loved it. I absolutely loved it. I couldn't tell you I loved it until I immersed myself and experienced it. So if you start looking at the psychology of men and women and how we make decisions and all of those kind of things, women are a lot more sensual. We do feel things. We do need to experience things. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? So the programs that we've designed to get more women into the industry, one is through a community approach. So we run our programs and it's a group of women that will go into our employer and experience the day on a construction site or on a manufacturing site, but they have their community. So that they've got that kind of community feel, which is very, very important for women, particularly where men are a lot more confident being that individual person often, and doesn't necessarily need to have that community to feel that confidence to make a decision and step into the unknown. Um, and then the second thing is that range of experience. So we get the women stripping wires, bending metal, feeling the different materials and all of those kind of things, for them to actually create that connection to, like, oh, I really enjoy this. I like the feel of this. I like the sound of this, and all of that kind of stuff. And when I interview tradesmen versus tradeswomen are very like, I love the feel of the metal, or I really enjoy watching building that building and stepping back and knowing what I've done for society, or I love to travel with my trade to third world countries and build homes for families in Cambodia. And there's this real emotional connection to their trade and everything like that. When I speak to the tradesmen, they're often like, well, I'm really good at that. I enjoy being outside. Like, my dad was a plumber, so I became a plumber. And at the end of the day, it means that I can provide for my family. I can buy a jet ski, I can buy a truck, and it's a great way to make money. So we come into the trades in a very different lens. And I think where people have gone wrong to attract women to the industry, they're trying to attract them the same way we attract men. And that's just not going to work. So, where I see our success is we've gone, okay, what is the feminine journey to becoming a tradesperson? And why do women enjoy being a tradesperson? And what's the benefits and the rewards? Yes, the financial rewards is great, But the more and more women I speak to in the industry, the more and more they love it because they're building society. They're out there giving back to their communities. They can volunteer their time at a local women's shelter and fix their toilets or do things like that. There's a different level and a different connection to the trades that I don't often see in the men. The men still like doing those kind of things, but it's not the front of mind of why. It's more that it's a great way to protect their family from a financial point of view because they're earning good money. So then they can be the providers and the protectors for their family, which is great. And that's what men are in our world to do.
Yeah, I roll my eyes a little bit at that, but it's interesting because as a company owner of a small business, I find engagement in the workforce is very much lacking.
Yeah.
And from what you're describing to me, for somebody who, like you said, from a sensory point of view, who really investigates and is in the industry for the why, would that not translate into more longevity in a job, a career, better quality of work, would you say?
Very much so. I think when you start to have pride in the work that you're doing and connecting to that why, and that's again among men and women as well. Like again, when you
Of
see
course, yeah.
men coming into the industry because they love doing the trade, you'll see a better quality tradesperson versus like I don't know, my dad was a
A
plumber.
paycheck.
I
Yeah.
wanted a paycheck. I didn't know what to do when I finished school, so I just went into the family business and now I have a job. Generally, their craftsmanship is not as good as the ones that just absolutely love it. And you come across tradespeople, you can tell them, even when you get them into your home and you don't know anything about it, you can tell from their energy, their tone of voice, the way that they show up, how clean they are, how well dressed they are, how tidy their tools are when they have pride of what they're doing, and they should. I see tradespeople as the everyday heroes of our society. Without
100%.
tradespeople, our world stops. And we can have all the doctors and lawyers in the world, but if we don't have hospitals and we don't have courtrooms that are being built and maintained by tradespeople, what are the doctors and the lawyers going to do? So I
Yeah.
think again, as society, we sometimes look down on tradespeople, where I think we should be looking up at them because they are literally the backbone of our society.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. So you're lying in this hospital bed. Let me rewind the tape a little bit here. So a 1,400 pound horse falls on you, rears up, I can imagine.
Mhm.
I mean, what was broken? I can't even imagine. Can you even list it? Do we have
Yeah,
enough time?
exactly. That might be a whole other podcast in itself. Lucky what happened when she reared up vertically, I kind of slipped off her. So when I landed on the ground, I was sitting up. And that's pretty much what saved my life because if I was lying down, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And even if
Okay.
she landed on me in a slightly different way, we still wouldn't be having this conversation. So she sat in my lap and adrenaline kicks in these moments, and somehow I managed to change the momentum of her keeping coming down on top of me, and I was able to redirect their energy so that she rolled off to the right hand side of me, and then I was able to kind of shimmy myself out from underneath her, roll over onto my tummy and army crawl out of the way because I
Wow.
couldn't move either of my legs at that time. So later on found out broke both of my hips very badly, pretty much shattered my pubic bone, broke the back of my pelvis where all my SI joints are. So my SI joints have all been fused right now. My pubic bone got rebuilt, but we still got to do some more work on that. I have a brand new right hip. We've got to get a brand new left hip, broken coccyx bones, and then a lot of nerve damage. So nerve damage to like my bladder and my stomach, and a lot of nerve damage to my right leg as well as some nerve damage to my lower lumbar spine as well.
Wow. I look at struggle and you hear every day everybody's struggles are different, right? And it's very much the same. But I mean, I saw you when we met last year in this November in Los Angeles and or Anaheim. And I mean, I saw you for 4 days, everything was great, and all of a sudden I just see you doubled over in pain. I mean, it just must just hit you in waves.
It does. So I've also got something what's a condition called complex regional pain syndrome. It's complex, hence the name. So we don't quite understand it as a medical industry. And basically, what happens, the brain mimics the nerve pain and the nerve damage that's really there in my right leg amongst all of my other limbs, and it kind of gets overwhelmed. So my limbs will start turning blue, they'll sweat, they'll cramp, they'll spasm, they'll get to the point when I put any weight on them, it literally feels like an electric shock mixed with a hot knife being dragged through my limbs as well. So you can imagine when you're walking and you're trying to put weight on these legs, and every time you put weight on the legs, it literally feels like they're getting ripped to pieces by knives, and that real nerve pain. So if you've ever had like sciatic nerve pain,
Yeah,
yeah,
I've had a laminectomy, so
yeah,
I do understand. Yeah,
yeah. Or even how I describe it to some people is if you remember when you used to sit on your leg at school for too long and then you try and stand up and it was pins and
yeah,
needly
yeah,
and
yeah.
wobbly. Yeah, that's pretty much how my limbs turn. And it comes in waves. It depends on so many different things, how much protein I've been eating, the weather somehow seems to affect it. So the pressure, stress, sleep, it's this kind of nuanced thing, and every time I think, "Oh, all right, I've nailed it," I haven't nailed it. It just
Yeah, still trying to
changes.
figure it out. Unbelievable. So you're lying in this hospital bed, you're thinking and the birth of, the idea of empowered women's in trades. I'm just interested because how does one start a movement like that? Like what were your first steps?
Yeah, and it's interesting. It never started as a movement. I think it actually just started as something I wanted to do quite small. So when I came out of hospital, and I'd spent a lot of time researching the challenges that were happening in the industry, from the mental health challenges we see among the men in the industry to interviewing a lot of women that are in the industry and the challenges that they have been facing, which were way worse than the challenges that I faced. Like I'd come across women who had their ponytails cut off on site, like the pin down, and they cut their ponytails off, had their ponytails pulled, their tools urinated on, all the way up to
It's terrible.
severe
Yeah, no,
severe assaults.
yeah,
So
crazy.
I came out of hospital, I guess, angry about my situation, about the fact that I could barely walk, about the fact that my whole dreams had been crushed. And I think to start with, it was a really good way to put that anger energy into something and actually get angry about something that wasn't myself in a way. And we had employed a female welder at our family company at the time. So I came out of hospital, I come back to work, I met her, and she was so grateful to be in a place that she felt safe to come to work. And that just was the light bulb moment, mixed with, at that time, the skill shortage in Australia was getting worse and worse and worse. It was really starting to affect our economy. It still is. We've now got a massive housing crisis that at the end of the day, we don't have enough tradespeople to build the houses. And I thought, wow, we've got this economic problem that's really starting to be connected to the skill shortage. Then COVID came, which really started to affect the financial stability of women in our country. So I thought, the anger that I had inside me, let's put into doing something about it. So originally, I thought it was just going to be something in my local community. I would engage with the schools, I would engage with employment agencies. Maybe 4 times a year, I would run an event at my family company and then partner with some construction companies to get women out on sites, and just a very little side project thing to help me, I guess, heal some of the anger that I had inside me in a productive productive way. And then it took off, and turned into a national company. We work with clients like Coca-Cola, big power companies back in Australia, and now it's something I've traveled the world and consulted over in the UK, starting to consult in the US, all about exactly this, of how do we improve not only the female representation, but the psychological well-being of humans in the skilled trades industry. Because whether it's America, Australia, Canada, the UK, the industry is really struggling with psychological well-being for the humans that are going into the industry as well.
Yeah, I was doing some reading, and I believe, and I might be misquoting it, that you guys are trying to go from, I think it was 3% or
Yeah.
something like that in 2020 to a goal of at least 30% in a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, where are you on that path?
So we're definitely getting great momentum, and I almost see it as a hockey stick kind of effect. So you look at the welding trade. When I started, it was a zero point 0.6 female representation in welding, and now we're at 1%. So that takes a lot. Those lower
Yeah,
levels
that's
takes
technically double.
yeah, technically double. Those lower levels take a lot because again it's hard you can be what you can see, so encouraging those early adapters, and we look at that at any product, those early adopters, whether it's the iPhone, whether it's anything like that, that's that slow movement. And then we do a lot of work in the schools, and that's where I'm really seeing the mind shift happen. So the year 7 and year 8 students, they didn't know anything about these career pathways because their parents are an accountant and an accountant or something like that, and not working in the industry. So these students weren't aware really of these career pathways. So when you can get into the schools and deliver this program to 1,000 students, all of a sudden there's 1,000 female students that never knew about these careers before. Now, even if 5% of that 1,000 actually take up that career pathway, that's a huge number, and that's where we're going to really start seeing that hockey shift happen. The other thing that's really starting to speed this up, and a lot of women that come through our programs, their jobs are being taken over by AI. So they're getting
Mhm.
displaced and they're actively wanting to look for a role that isn't going to get displaced in 5 years by AI. So they're like, well, trades, yes, is going to be improved by AI. We're going to see AI a lot more probably on the office side and helping with scheduling and inventory management. But out there, building the buildings and replacing the plumbing pipes that break and things like that, that's going to be a long time before we have
Yeah.
robots and AI doing that.
Yeah. So basically a grassroots type of community initiatives.
Yes. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I would. Sorry to interrupt. I was actually thinking that, I think a generation almost has to pass before it really starts to take root, if you will, because if a female mom, all of a sudden she's a plumber, welder, whatever it is, then the kids get automatically inspired to mimic what their parents are doing. Would you agree with that?
Very much so. And the other shift that's starting to happen again is amongst the dads. So a lot of dads come to me with young daughters and they're like, what can we do? Because we can see that this industry has historically been closed off to women, but we don't want that for our daughters. So yes, there's women that now their children are seeing them on the tools, but there is young females out there with dads that are very, very passionate to make sure that that their daughters have opportunities, and that they're not having opportunities closed down because they're a girl. And that's the really powerful thing, because 97% of the industry are the men. So the more you start to see the mind shift between dads, and the more dads are starting to bring their daughters to work, and dads are starting to talk to their daughters about what it's like to be a tradesperson, then you really see, and daughters love being with their dads too. The interesting thing about daughters and mums, and I went through this when I was a young teenager, you kind of start to clash with your mum a bit as well, and you kind of love being with your dad. So that dad and daughter relationship's very powerful, and then having the mum out there on the tools as well is also very powerful. So I think it comes from both parents, and both
Hmm.
parents really saying to their female, their daughters, if you want to do it, you can do it. And how can, as parents, dads and mums, really open up the doors of opportunity so their daughters can go out there and experience what it's like to be a tradesperson.
Oh, it's wonderful. Wonderful. So I know you just recently relocated to America. Tell us how that transition's been and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so the transition's been really, really interesting. I think on the surface level, we feel we share so much, especially in Australia. A lot of our TVs and movies is American. A lot of the things that we consume is American. I always say when America kind of gets a sniffly nose, Australia gets the full blown flu because we're so influenced by America. But then coming here, what I love is there's such a different mindset difference. In Australia, we've got the tall poppy syndrome. So as much as I'm over there really championing change, it comes with a lot of resistance. Where I've come over here and I've really started to talk about what I want to do and talk about bringing the same model over into America, and talk about bringing positive psychology into the skilled trades to really nurture the psychological well-being of tradespeople, you're met with this like, how can we help? What can we do? Can like this innovative entrepreneurial thinking of how do we do it? How do we make social impact and also make money as well? And they're just, where I've come over here and really started to talk about it, the excitement, the I'm not even involved in the trades industry, but how can I help you? Kind of, if I'm speaking to someone at a restaurant, and the female server is like, what can I do to help this? Like, is there a social media page I can share? I've got a daughter at home. What should I tell her? There seems to be a lot more open mindedness in the American market to the Australian market, which is a little bit more that tall poppy syndrome that we have over there, unfortunately.
Right. So, are you? I mean, what's your main, I guess, company goal? You mentioned something about consulting.
Yes, so I've set up a business here called All Star Consulting Services, and that's very much focusing on how we can support the skilled trades industry from a holistic point of view. So, yes, if you want to diversify your workforce, we're happy to work with you and looking at how we do that, from how you're putting your job ads out to how you present online as well. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to recruit diversity and none of your social media posts have any form of diversity in it, it can be a bit harder to do it. All the way to, as we know, the trade industry is absolutely ripe for that roll up, scale up, and exit into a private equity company, or private equity doing that themselves as well. So, through our consulting business, we're bringing in experts from like, branding to financial experts to how do you set your trade business up to really have the right organizational structure to get ready for an exit or a scale up. How do you protect your wealth once you do sell your trades business as well? So looking at bringing consultants from all over the world to into our consulting hub to really support trades businesses from that, I'm a qualified person that wants to start my own business, and how do I start actually doing that, to, all right, let's start rolling up a plumbing business with an HVAC business and double our size and start to get ourselves ready for private equity.
So, if I'm hearing this, you have the consulting company, and you're still intending on personally getting into roll-ups, or you're consulting on how to get people into roll-ups.
So, a bit of both. For me at the moment, definitely starting in that consulting space just to really get boots in ground, my personal upskilling of understanding, yeah, the legal and taxation structure here in
Of
America,
course.
which has slight difference to Australia. And I'm very much like, before I personally put my money into something, I really want to understand it as well. So, and then there's also like my visa situation and what I can and can't do as a personal
Of course.
individual, connected to my visas as well, which is good because that kind of slows me down for the first 12 months here in the visa that I'm coming over with. Allows me to work, allows me to really find out what is the right industries as well for my skill set and the industries that I see fantastic opportunities for that personal scale up, roll up, and exit, and then working in the back end on a more permanent visa that allows me to start investing in the US personally.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, so just to expand on roll ups, let's have a 5 minute discussion on that because I know that part of our network is learning about. I mean, maybe what is a roll up? I mean, for the layperson that's listening.
Yeah, so the way I describe it to trades businesses when I start doing that is you're either the big fish or the little fish. So if you're the big fish and you've got the company that has the infrastructure to start putting out there and start fishing for little smaller fish to make you an even bigger fish, that's fantastic. So that's kind of that platform company. If you've got the revenue that allows you to do that. You've got the infrastructure that allows you to do that too. So if you're a trades business that's still invoicing on paper, you're probably not the big fish out there. But if you're a trades business that have got an ERP system, a CRM, you've got that kind of technical infrastructure in you, you're probably a big fish. And then you can go out there and get those little fishes, especially those companies that the person is going to retire in 5 years' time. They don't have a succession plan. What are they going to do? They might be doing $500,000 a year in profit, but at the end of the day, they want to retire and go spend their time in the Bahamas. But they might have 10 people on their book and they don't want to just shut their business down. So they're the little fish that they can merge into that bigger platform fish and hand over their clientele, hand over their tradespeople, and that then becomes part of the even bigger ecosystem. And the more you can do that as that big platform company or the big fish, the quicker you can grow into a larger style company and get to that bottom end of where you're attractive to private equity. Because private equity does want to get involved in a 10-person invoicing on paper kind of company.
Yeah, no, I think for little fish, also, it's really about the exit too,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of, I don't want to call them lifestyle businesses. They're very, very successful trades, but they have maybe one truck, two trucks, maybe two or three apprentices and helpers. How do they sell that company? Is it even sellable in their mind? And I see so many people kind of just turn off the lights after a very successful career. And other than the revenue that they've earned, they really don't have a traditional, I'm selling my business, here's my exit, then I'm going to the Bahamas. And I think roll ups provide a really good opportunity for those folks. Would you agree with that?
A fantastic opportunity, especially with how I see doing successful roll ups. If you're taking that smaller company, that head tradesperson, the person that set it up and then all of a sudden got the one or two, three different trucks, they have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of skills that if you do that roll up and you keep them on for that last kind of golden years of them working, the last 2, 3 years of them working, but all of a sudden they're out there training the apprentices because they've got an amazing technical skill set, or they're out there being the preacher of the company because they've got a great personality or things like that. So those final kind of years of their career, you can actually give them the opportunity to lean into their strengths, not have to worry about payroll and not worry about chasing that account and all of those things small business owners have to worry about. For the final years, they get to really, really enjoy whatever their skill set is. And then they walk away with a nice paychecks that they can go and enjoy their retirement on. And if they're smart as well, they can still stay in that roll up environment. So they might not take 100% off their exit. They might leave 25% in, take 75% off and enjoy. And when that company that they became a part of sells again, then they've got 25% of that sale. And they don't even have to take that. You can keep going over and over. So it's a great way for people with trades businesses to retire with a nice end of their career, a nice paycheck when they need to, but a continuous clip of the ticket as that trades business keeps rolling up and goes into that cycle of getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's what Adam Coffey refers to as bites of the apple, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. No, I think it's a really good opportunity for people to really target what you're going to be doing, whether you're a big fish or a small fish. And I love that you're starting this business in consulting. Before we wrap up, Hacia, I will always ask everybody the same question because everybody has a different answer. So I'd love to hear what you have to say. So this is the Investing to Win podcast. How do you define success? And how do you define winning, and what does that look like for you?
Hmm. I love that question. I love that question. Going back to what we're talking about your why, I think as soon as you understand your why, you're winning. So what is your motivation? What is that fuel that gets you up and makes you want to breathe every single day? And that really hit me when I was in hospital and I had nothing else around me. I was non-weight bearing. I was trapped in that hospital bed and I literally asked myself the question, why continue breathing? Like, what is there to breathe for? And that's the moment I won my gold medal. Because when I was able to answer that question and I was able to understand why am I showing up every single day, then from there, I started having the roadmap to what my winning's like. What is my purpose? What is my why? And some days for me personally, winning was standing for 10 seconds all the way back when I was learning to stand and walk again. And now winning is potentially landing a big client or getting a text message from a woman saying, now that I'm in the skilled trades industry, I don't have to decide if I eat or my kids eat tonight. And so it's kind of linking back to that purpose of I want to make impact of making sure other people are living thriving and successful lives. And I decided that in hospital when I was like, I can't go to the world's coming to me. So, how can I be the person that makes every person that comes into my hospital room smile or laugh, or I can bring joy to other people? And now that I'm in a physically better way, that's turned into how can I make people in the workplace thrive, whether that's financially, whether that's psychologically, whether that's operationally. How can I be the person that comes into these businesses and make sure that that business thrives?
I love it. No, it's been I think bigger purpose. People who don't get driven by bigger purpose aren't going to be as successful. I'll just put that out there. So I love that. I don't love that this happened to you. I mean, I've had my own life scares, but they do change us a little bit inside, and for the better. And then we're very focused on making a difference in the world, and that's the best place to be.
Yeah, yeah. And that's when again, money can always be taken away from you. And if you define winning as something that's connected to your value system, your character, if winning is how you show up and you make yourself better as a person 1% every single day, money comes and goes. You can win big in the stock market, you can lose big the next day. I think we get so hell bent on defining success and winning to a monetary value, and that's where we go wrong. Where if we start defining how are we winning in something in that can never be taken away from us, and that's what I learned in my hospital bed. My mindset, my character, my humor, the way I looked at the world, who I was as a person can never get taken away from me. So everything I do is connected back to how do I win and how do I become 1% better every single day. And if I'm doing that, I'm winning regardless of what my bank balance is. And ironically, your bank balance then seems to reflect
Yeah,
success.
it's just how you keep score. But no, that's well put. Well put. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me for the last hour. It's been a pleasure. Your story is very fascinating. I think the listeners are going to get a lot out of it. I'll get some information from you to throw that into the show notes. But other than that, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a beautiful conversation.
All right, take care.